friends. Welcome to Scott Fox After 9. It is March the 26th. It is Thursday, and as I record here, it is a beautiful day in southern Ontario, but we can't have nice things for very long. Gas prices went down 13 cents yesterday, and then lo and behold, they're back up 8 cents today. We finally get a warm weather day today, 13 degrees. Not even going to get it for the whole day. In fact, as soon as it gets to 13, it's going to start dropping down to 9 degrees, and then the sky is going to open up, and we're going to get a ton of rain, and then it's going to be cold again for the weekend. This winter is really trying everybody's patience, I can tell. But a little sign that spring is around the corner. Tomorrow, opening day for the Toronto Blue Jays. They're taking on the Athletics this weekend at Rogers Centre, and wherever you are listening across the country, if you find yourself in Toronto, you might want to take in a Jays game. That's a fairly common thing to do. Yesterday, they gave the media a little preview of what the food options are going to be at Rogers Centre this year, and they've announced it's back. There's no way they could take it away because it's so popular. Tuesday night home games are going to be Looney Dog night once again at the Rogers Centre. You get a hot dog for $1. But they're also adding in a few new things. They've added in the Ace Dog that is named after the Blue Jays mascot. That is a hot dog that's topped with nacho cheese, chips, onions, and bacon. That might actually be okay. There are some people out there who put chips on their hot dog. And while that's not for me, much like my political acumen, I'm going to remain fairly neutral on that one. You chip away if you want to. They're also adding in the Al Pastor dog. That's a combination of a hot dog with Mexican-inspired toppings such as pork, pineapple, chilies, and optional jalapeno peppers. Pineapple on a hot dog. We're doing that now, apparently. The Al Pastor dog. I love the Al Pastor dish when I go to an authentic Mexican restaurant. Hard to envision that on a hot dog. They're also going to do some different fry things. For example, there is the Korean favorite bulgogi fries. I'm led to believe that is like a Korean beef poutine. There's going to be garlic knots. A meatball panini is something that you can get at Rogers Centre for Jays games this year. There's the Big Slugger burger. And I guess they finally got my letter. They're adding in fish and chips to the menu at Rogers Centre. That's what you want, right? You want to sit there and watch a ball game while people on either side of you are grabbing a handful of fish and chips. That sounds like a great time, doesn't it? I can't wait to step in tartar sauce trying to get to and from the bathroom in between innings. Fish and chips that you eat on your lap at the Rogers Centre. I'm still trying to wrap my mind around that one, but whatever. I mean, I'm not in charge. I have no doubt that people are actually going to buy that, but enjoy if you're going down there. The other thing they've added is a nice little dessert option. It is a French toast twist served with whipped cream and a sliced strawberry. A sliced strawberry. You get like one strawberry. I think it's like $13 on the menu or something. Well, then again, when a pint of strawberries costs $6.99, which it does sometimes, I guess that's not altogether unreasonable. Anyway, that's the new menu at Rogers Centre this year. If you're thinking about taking in a ball game, and go Jays go. Let's jump into the rest of the content I've got prepared for you today. I've got a lot of audio to play, and it's going to jump around and be on a wide range of different topics. But I'm going to do this because a lot of this you're not going to see on the news. The mainstream media is not covering a lot of this. So that's why I have prepared this segment for you in the podcast. I want to start off with a video that was put out by the Member of Parliament yesterday for, I think it's Hamilton East, Stony Creek. Real good guy, Ned Curick. Ned had to sit there in the House of Commons yesterday while four important pieces of legislation that the Conservative Party put forward all got voted down in one day. So I could summarize it, but I think Ned is very, very good at this. He's put together a nice little summary. This is 2 minutes long. Listen to Ned explain what got voted down yesterday in the House of Commons.
Folks, today is an exceptionally difficult day. I am not quite angry, actually, to be honest with everybody, and I'll tell you why. If you give me a minute, just listen through this video, and I'm going to now tell you exactly what the government, the Liberals, and the Prime Minister voted down on all the bills that were trying to be passed today. So number one is Bill C. 246. It is a bill that ensures sexual predators face consecutive sentences so that each offense is properly recognized and punished. The Liberals voted that down. Number 2, Bill C-220. Conservatives will end leniency for non-citizens convicted of serious crimes and ensure they are deported, not given sweetheart deals by the courts due to their immigration status. The Liberals voted that down.
Little pause here for Ned. I mean, and I apologize. The audio quality on this video isn't that great for some reason, but I still think it's worth hearing from a member of parliament and a great one like Ned in Hamilton East Stony Creek. You know, when you think about what just got voted down and then you watch the news and you see the politicians on there all the time. We're making Canada safer. We want safer streets. We're tackling crime. How can they honestly say they're tackling crime when they vote against and reject these simple common sense motions? No, you don't get leniency in your immigration status if you commit a serious crime. That should be a no-brainer. You committed a serious crime. That means, no, you're not going to get status here in Canada. You're not going to get citizenship. That's just all there is to it. Consecutive sentences. That was another one. Why can't we agree on that? If you commit 3 sexual assaults, you should serve 3 sentences. The way the law works right now is you serve them all at the same time. So basically, if you're going to murder someone, you might as well murder a whole bunch of people. Because if you're going to get 20 years for murder, and you'll never get 20 years for murder. That rarely happens these days. But if you're going to murder one person, murder multiple, because it's only going to be one sentence. If you get 10 years for the first murder, the other 2 are basically free. Well, the Conservatives in that specific case tried to make it consecutive sentences. For the first murder, you get, say, 12 years. For the second murder, you get 12 more years. For the third murder, you get 12 more years. 36 years is what you should do. But no. They all get served concurrently, as opposed to consecutively. Those are just 2 so far of the motions that got voted down yesterday in the House of Commons. Here's a little more of Ned.
Bill C-243 ends the cycle of annual parole hearings that force murder victims' families to relive the trauma year after year. The Liberals voted that down as well.
For anyone who isn't sure, what that one means is when someone is in jail for committing a serious crime, in all likelihood, they would like to get out sooner and they'll apply for parole. Well, the parole board leans on the victims or the family of the victims to come and tell them why the person who wants parole should not get it. But you have to re-traumatize them every single time that person applies for parole. So if they apply every year, that means every year, someone who's had their wife or husband or mother or father or brother or sister or what have you murdered has to go back and face the guy who did it and argue they should stay in jail. They wanted to end that practice. And the Liberals voted against that. The Liberals voted against it. Why would they do that?
And the biggest one is they voted down and killed jail, not bail. I am besides myself in how angry I am. These 4 bills were voted down today by the Liberals, and they have the audacity to stand in the House and say that they're fighting for Canadians and trying to restore our justice system. They are doing completely the opposite, and they have obstructed every single bill that we put forth today. Instead of coming and trying to work with us on these bills, they killed everything I just mentioned today. Please share this, because I don't know if the Canadian newspapers will pick this up. And
newsflash, they're not. The mainstream media is not talking about that. But you know what? If some minister stands up in a media scrum and says, we're getting tough on crime, yeah, the news will carry that. But the language they use in Parliament, the language they use when they're speaking to the media, doesn't match how they vote. You know, and what's a shame is there's so many people out there that they see the minister on the news say we're going to get tough on crime, and they just take for granted. Oh, okay, I guess they take this seriously. They're going to get tough on crime. And they don't follow things like what I just played there. 4 big crime bills, all rejected in one day. And it makes me wonder, where are we going from here? Like, are we actually going to get serious about crime, or was that all gaslighting? You know what else came up yesterday? It was in one of the committee hearings, the topic of Iranian terrorists hiding here in Canada. Here is Conservative member Frank Caputo asking a question to the Public Safety Minister.
The operatives or those related, do you believe to be in Canada now? Not that you're looking at, not that you're scanning. How many are there?
Mr. Caputo, we are in the process of going through 24 individuals who are deemed to be members of the IRGC for removal.
Okay, I didn't ask you, this is the last time I'm going to ask this, I didn't ask you how many you are going through. I asked you how many of a terrorist regime. Iranians across this country have been subject to terrorism. I'm asking how many, just the number of IRGC terrorists are there in Canada? If you don't know, then please just say, I don't know.
Mr. Caputo, this is a very serious matter, and if you will permit me, I will give you the answer that I think Canadians deserve.
Give us a number.
So let me just say right now there's 24 individuals who have gone through an assessment and they've been deemed to be members of the IRGC. That is the position of the Government of Canada. We are in the process of removing them, Mr. Caputo.
Okay, Minister, I don't think I'm getting a serious
in terms
answer.
of the numbers.
Minister, how many people, last time you were here, we learned that 32,000 people through CBSA had warrants for them, as in you didn't know where they were, a third of the city of Kamloops. What is that number today?
Well, that information, Mr. Caputo, is available online.
Well, you're not going to tell us?
It's available online, Mr. Caputo.
Are you kidding me? No. It's okay.
I don't think there's anything funny here, Mr. Caputo.
Nor do I.
I would say
behold,
the president of CBSA.
Your public safety
I'm
minister.
sorry to interrupt again, but that's...
Frank is great. I don't understand why the public safety minister wouldn't answer that question. There's terrorists and people that are trying to raise money for terrorists in Canada. There's more than 24. That's all the public safety minister will admit to is 24. But it's probably in the thousands. Just a number. And if you don't know the number, say you don't know the number. He does know the number, but he's going to make people go online and look it up because he doesn't want the soundbite of him saying how many there are in Canada. What a mess. What a complete and total mess. While I'm doing committee hearing audio, let me do another one. Another topic that comes up quite a bit is climate change. And as you know, the federal government is all in on climate change. They want to tax us more to change the weather, to put it in a very basic way. Pay more in tax and we can change the weather. And to them, it doesn't matter that the biggest industrial polluters in the world, the Chinas, the Indias, America, Russia, it doesn't matter that they're all putting out massive amounts of carbon. Canada's contribution to climate change is actually relatively small. It doesn't matter that even if we did everything right, it still wouldn't make a difference in the overall fight against climate change. That doesn't matter. They're still taxing us as if it does. Well, climate change came up in a committee hearing, and it was actually a conversation with Franco Terrazzano. He is from the Canadian Taxpayer Federation. Asking questions of Franco is Bruce Fanjoy. He is an Ottawa area member of Parliament. Listen to this.
Mr. Terrazzano, I've heard you mention industrial carbon pricing being the worst of all worlds on a number of occasions today. I was wondering how you would compare the world's experienced by farmers on the prairies who are dealing with drought, lower mainland BC dealing with atmospheric rivers, or across Canada, wildfires taking out entire towns.
Yeah, thank you so much for your question. I really appreciate it. I mean, it's awful news, and making life more expensive in Canada with an industrial carbon tax that doesn't work doesn't help those farmers, right? Because when you increase cost for fertilizer plants, that drives up cost for farmers and makes food more expensive for families. And added on to that, it does nothing to reduce emissions.
Does anybody disagree with that? I think that's a very reasonable position from Franco Terrazzano at the Canadian Taxpayers Federation. He's right. Listen, if we did everything right, if we got rid of every single piece of CO2 and methane that we're putting into the atmosphere right now, It wouldn't make a difference unless the world's biggest polluters actually did their part as well. But the government wants to keep taxing us as if it makes a difference. Where does that money go? It goes to green projects, apparently. We're supposed to just assume that there's no waste or corruption in that program, although I don't see how that would be possible. It seems like this is something that we're an unnecessary burden that we're putting on Canadian taxpayers right now that really is not effective. I thought that was a great response from Franco. One more committee hearing before I get to an important topic that's coming up about graduations that are going to happen in Ontario in just a few months. I'll explain after we hear from the Standing Committee on Health. The program is called Prescribe It. I want to play for you a little bit of some question and answer featuring Dr. Matt Strauss. He is the member of parliament for Kitchener South Hespeler. That's a Cambridge area riding. Listen to this.
Mr. Strauss's motion by removing those. So with that motion, anyone wishing to speak to it, Mr. Strauss?
Yeah, I listened very carefully to what my colleague across the way said. And it didn't make any sense to me. So just for those listening at home, Prescribe IT is a program the federal government came up with to have digital prescribing from doctors to pharmacies. As far as I'm aware, such solutions already exist. The government spent $250 million on this particular solution, and now they're pulling the plug. So they spent $250 million for no clear good. It's $250 million that they set on fire. When the government of Canada enters into contracts with no clear benefit and wastes $250 million on it, I think the people of Canada, who we're all respondent to, would be interested to see those contracts and would be interested to see how those decisions were made so that mistakes like that don't happen again. And I would just remind the members opposite that when their government came to power in 2015, they promised to be the most transparent government of all time, to be open by default. I want to see these contracts. I just want to understand how they blew $250 million on a program that they are shutting down. My family doctors had electronic prescribing the whole time. It had nothing to do with Prescribe IT. So $250 million has gone away, and they're not even curious to see how that happened. And they're filibustering this meeting to prevent us from agreeing as a committee to order the production of those documents. This is a scandal. This is a boondoggle. And frankly, I think Canadians have every right to wonder if there was fraud or, frankly, corruption at play beneath a $250 million contract that has achieved nothing. So I don't understand why Ms. Sidhu would be so concerned by the expansiveness of the motion. I think Canadians are curious to see where $250 million went. So I urge my colleagues to vote against this amendment, which is trying to hide the facts from Canadians who are out $250 million. Thanks.
Speaking...
What? It's $250 million. Think about how much money comes off your check twice a month or every other week. Think about all the money that comes off your check. And a large chunk of it goes to Ottawa. We expect those people in Ottawa to manage our money properly. They just blew through $250 million on something that it seems that we already had, and the program they're now closing down because why? It didn't work? Did it not work because we already had it? Or what was the problem here? Why don't they want us to see the contracts? Where did $250 million go? That's a perfectly reasonable question that every taxpayer has a right to know. How did you waste $250 million, just shut down the program, and now you have nothing to show for it? This is crazy. $250 million. It's bananas. Hey, before I get to the graduation news, and I am looking forward to talking about that because it's an interesting topic surrounding politics in the classroom. Before I get to that, the updated list of the top 10 most stolen vehicles is out, according to AutoGuide. Now, as long as I've been reading these lists, I've known that the Honda Civic is the most stolen car on the road, the Honda Civic, and it is usually followed closely by the Honda CR-V, the Ford F-150, and there's usually some Lexus or Mercedes SUVs in there as well. It seems the thieves are going into a lower bracket of pricing when it comes to stealing vehicles now. The number one most stolen vehicle is the Hyundai Elantra. most stolen vehicle, according to AutoGuide. Number 2, the Honda Accord, followed by the Hyundai Sonata. 2 Hyundais in the top 3. Now, the F-150, usually on this list, has fallen to number 7. Likely, F-150 owners got tired of their vehicles getting stolen, and they've taken extra security precautions. Maybe they're parking in the garage or something like that. I don't know. But the F-150 has dropped to number 7. However, that cleared the way for the Chevy Silverado to come in at number 4. The Honda Civic is 5, followed by the Kia Optima, the Ford F-150 at number 7. Number 8 is the Toyota Camry. Number 9 is the Honda CR-V. And the 10th most stolen vehicle, the Nissan Altima. So if you own any of those, I'm sorry to say, but your insurance is about to go way up. I swear the insurance companies just wait for those lists to come up so they can just add another vehicle that they can start like really jamming people for when it comes to their insurance.
This podcast is sponsored by IQ Bar.
I've got good news and bad news. Here's the bad news. Most protein bars are packed with sugar and unpronounceable ingredients. The good news? There's a better option. I'm Will, and I created IQ Bar plant protein bars to empower doers like you with clean, delicious, low-sugar brain and body fuel. IQ bars are packed with 12 grams of protein, brain nutrients like magnesium and lion's mane, and 0 weird stuff. And right now, you can get 20% off all IQ Bar products, plus free shipping. Try our delicious IQ Bar sampler pack with 7 plant protein bars, 4 hydration mixes, and 4 enhanced coffee sticks. Clean ingredients, amazing taste, and you'll love how you feel. Refuel smarter, hydrate harder, caffeinate larger with IQ Bar.
Go to eatiqbar.com and enter code BAR20 to get 20% off all IQ Bar products plus free shipping. Again, go to eatiqbar.com and enter code BAR20.
Friends, graduations are coming up in just a few months. Following, I don't even need to explain it. What I'm going to do for you here is play a little bit of the Ontario Education Minister, Paul Calandra. Paul's a smart guy, involved in a little bit of scandal right now because he's trying to roll up his sleeves and clear out some corruption in the school system. One of the things that Paul does not like is the way some of the school board trustees are abusing money from taxpayers. He doesn't like the trustees, and there's a lot of reason to think he's going to amalgamate a lot of school boards. Now, he hasn't actually said that yet. That's just what people are speculating. I know some in the education industry do not like the education minister. In fact, I don't ever remember an education minister that the education unions were a fan of. So that's not altogether uncommon. But what I do like here about Mr. Calandra is he is taking on a topic that I think needs to be dealt with. There's a lot of politics that are creeping into our schools, a lot of very woke ideology that is being filtered into our schools. And in some school boards, they're not even hiding it, like in Hamilton, where they announced some serious changes around graduation. Paul Calandra here, again, the Ontario Education Minister, has instructed schools, don't you screw around with grad. You are going to honor student achievements, which is the whole point of graduation, and you're going to leave your woke ideology and politics out of the grad ceremonies. This is not a particularly long clip, but I think everyone should hear it. This is Minister Calandra yesterday in the Ontario legislature.
I made it very clear in that letter that I don't want teachers put in the middle of disagreements between students and school boards. There was a memo that went out from the Hamilton District School Board to teachers. So a faceless superintendent in that board decided that graduation ceremonies shouldn't focus on student achievement. Student achievement, by the way, which comes about because of the hard work of teachers, right? So a graduation ceremony is about the student's success, but it's also a way for parents to recognize what teachers have done to build on that success. So this superintendent in Hamilton decided, let's make it divisive, let's turn it away from the success of students and put that on the responsibility on the shoulder of the teachers organizing. Well, that superintendent, you know what that superintendent should do? Go to every single one of these graduation ceremonies so that when parents are upset by the divisive nature of it, when parents are upset that the focus is not on students, let them take the heat from the students, not the teacher. We should focus on success of students and what they have accomplished.
I don't know if this is a divisive thing. I hope it's not. I thought what Minister Calandra said there was perfectly appropriate. And this, again, in response to a Hamilton school board and possibly others that wanted grad to become very, very woke. It was an internal memo sent last December in Hamilton anyway. The board instructed principals to host graduation ceremonies through an anti-oppressive, anti-racist, anti-colonial lens, insisting on long formal land acknowledgements and offering people the option to remain seated during the national anthem. What are we doing here? Why are school boards doing that? The whole point of graduation is to celebrate the achievement of students. I think it's perfectly appropriate for the government to step in where a school board seems to have lost their way. Again, we're not all going to agree on that, and maybe the nuance of the changes that the Ontario government wants to make need to be debated, but I don't see any gray area there. Let's not make grad political. Let's make it about students. Let's make it about their achievements. Let's have a good time celebrating and wish them well in whatever they're going on to next. That should be an easy one. I got a couple of crash out moments here. Yesterday, Ontario Premier Doug Ford was speaking to the media, and he kind of lost it when Colin DeMello, who was a guest on this pod only a couple of weeks ago, brought up the polling that says Ontarians are not happy that Doug Ford is trying to hide behind freedom of information laws or reform the laws so he doesn't have to turn over as much as he used to have to. And he wants to make that retroactive as well. In fairness, the premier is defending himself, so I'm going to play the entire set of remarks. Listen, this is Doug Ford yesterday speaking in Mississauga.
And I wanted to ask you about polling. I know you say polls are for dogs, but then you also talk about polls quite often when they benefit you. A new Abacus...
I don't care.
A new Abacus poll, Premier, shows that a majority of respondents, 60%, oppose your planned changes to the FOI laws. 75% are against the government making the changes retroactive. And 63% want progressive Conservative MPPs to vote against your own government's law that will be introduced tomorrow on the FOI changes. What do you think about that poll? And don't you think that that's overwhelmingly... negative about the FOI changes?
Something, that poll, you never disclose the full facts. That polls come from QP Union that absolutely hates me, hates our government, and I wonder why it's biased. But let me tell you something, Colin. People care about affordability right now. They care about buying a home. They care about making sure they have a job. They care about making sure that when there's opportunities like that, they're going to be able to go out and buy a home. That's what our poll shows. Number one, it's the economy, it's the economy, it's the economy. And as Carville said back to, George H. Bush, it's the economy, stupid. So I'll never call you stupid because you're a smart guy. You know exactly what you're doing. But it's all about the economy.
You know, Doug Ford is right. It is about the economy, and by and large, Canadians are concerned about that. But part of the reason people want to have access to these freedom of information requests and be able to make them is so that we can make sure that the economy is performing the best it can. And one of the ways we can do that is to make sure there's no corruption in government, to make sure that everything's operating above board. And if everything were operating above board, this government shouldn't have anything to hide. Again, they work for the people. What is so important to Doug Ford to hide here? He is really digging in his heels. He does not want to give up anything when it comes to the freedom of information requests. Here's the rest of the Premier's remarks.
Hey, Premier Ford,
I'm always nice to you, Colin. What are you talking about? I call the guy on his birthday. I do everything. Go ahead.
Premier Ford, Ahmed El-Bayoumi with Poly Corner. I just want to add to Colin's question first. The poll found that a majority believe that the changes are primarily intended to reduce government accountability. Premier, can you explain to Ontarians why they feel that you are trying to reduce government accountability?
Well, let's be very clear. It's 95%. I'm going to repeat that number until you guys can repeat it on the news. 95% anything will be disclosed, FOIs. We are following in the steps of every single province in the federal government. So I find it amazing that every other province is doing what we're planning to do and has done it for years in the federal government. So maybe you should talk to those folks, find out we're just following lockstep with the rest of the province. The only mistake we did is we should have done this years ago with all the other provinces in the federal government. So we aren't pulling a rabbit out of our hat. Everything's transparent. Judge us on the decisions we make, and that's very transparent. But again, I know you people that are focused on this are two groups, the opposition and the media. I can tell you ask the average person, they want a job, they want affordability, They want lower gas, lower taxes, and they want to be able to buy a home.
Okay, I mean, actually, 75% of the people surveyed don't agree with what Doug Ford is doing. 75%. 75% of people don't agree on anything. But 75% agree that Doug Ford is going too far. Now, what Doug is trying to do is say, well, we're just trying to line ourselves up with what the feds are doing and some of the other provinces as well. And what he's proposing, I guess, would be more consistent with what they're doing. I think what people want, though, is they want perfect accountability and transparency up until now. This law to make it retroactive is bananas to try and shield Doug Ford's cell phone records. Making it retroactive is crazy, and that is, by and large, what the vast majority of people are opposed to. But when it comes to changing these freedom of information laws, what Doug Ford is trying to do is be less accountable than he had to be last year, in his second term, and in his first term, and far less accountable than what previous governments were. Stop comparing Ontario to Manitoba and PEI. Who cares? This is Ontario. It's the most populous province in Ontario. We're talking massive deficits being run here, huge debt being rung up, and people want to be able to know that they can pay their fee, $5 or whatever it is, and file a freedom of information request to find out what went on with specific things. And until now, that's been perfectly okay. But Doug Ford doesn't want to do that anymore. Here's him explaining the rest. This is about 45 seconds long.
I'd note that according to the IPC, only 4% of FOIs come from the media. However, Premier, I do want to ask you on an unrelated...
Can I jump in there for a second? Folks, listen to this stat. We get 75,000 FOIs. That's more than the entire country combined. Something's wrong with that. We have full-time staff getting paid a lot of money, not only in the bureaucracy, but also in our office. All they do is do FOIs. Something's broken when we're getting more FOIs than anyone in the entire country. But I have an idea. Why don't we talk about the greatest announcement?
That's not. If he's getting 75,000 freedom of information requests, surely that must signal to somebody that people are concerned that there's an issue here. You know, I don't think that that's something he should be complaining about. 75,000 freedom of information requests would indicate to me there's a lot of distrust of this government there. I don't know why we would take away people's ability to be able to ask the government to be accountable and share basic information with the voters. I'm really not understanding where Doug Ford is going with this other than, and this is just the way it seems, there's something in his phone records and something in the cabinet documents that he cannot let get out there. And it would have to be something very, very damning. And he is going to fight tooth and nail to keep that private. And that, I think, just fuels the distrust even more. Someone who is obviously opposed to what Doug Ford wants to do is the Ontario leader of the opposition, NDP leader, Marit Stiles.
Is it really worth it to the member opposite to get up here and defend the Premier's personal text messages? Have we learned nothing from Hillary? My goodness. People don't like it when their governments cover things up. They don't like it when they hide secrets away. It is not what you were elected to do. It is not what you were elected to do. And I want to be very clear. We're not asking, nobody is asking for the Premier's family text messages. I could care less what he is up to in his personal life. We are not asking for his TikTok login. We are not asking for his Wordle scores. We are asking for information about what government business he is conducting on his personal devices, and the courts have ordered him to release that. Will the Premier do the right thing and stop hiding his personal devices from the people?
Okay, I'm going to leave it at that. We don't need to relitigate this. If you've been listening all week and part of last week as well, we covered this. But I want to go to Ottawa before I wrap things up because the Prime Minister had a few things to say yesterday, including around this controversy. And I briefly touched on this in yesterday's pod. The CEO of Air Canada facing a lot of criticism because on Monday, after the crash at LaGuardia, the CEO did not offer his condolence in French, only English. And twice now, including this morning in a statement, the CEO of Air Canada has put out a statement saying he's not confident in his ability to convey that message properly in French. In other words, he's not good enough at speaking French to be able to convey a serious message like that. Let me just say that I'm not condoning it because I do think that the CEO of Air Canada and other big companies like that, national companies, I think they should be able to communicate in both official languages. I just think that should be a priority, and CEOs that get hired at these big companies should be able to speak both. But this guy doesn't at the moment. And as a communicator, I sympathize with him. I'm learning Italian. And I'm doing that because I want to be able to relate more to my in-laws who are Italian immigrants and they speak Italian as their first language in the home. And I didn't speak any Italian. And I thought it would be good if I could learn a little bit so I can have basic communication with them and understand what they're saying. I understand a lot more than I can say. I'm not confident in my ability to be able to speak proper sentences or have a conversation in Italian. I don't have the dialect right. I don't have the accent right. And to be honest, if I had to give a statement in Italian, it would come off very inauthentic because I haven't mastered it yet. I understand a lot. I just can't speak it as comfortably as I'd like to, especially if it were in a serious situation. The CEO of Air Canada, I think he should be able to speak French, but since he can't, says he's learning. I don't know if that's true or not. He said that 5 years ago, and here we are. But if he can't convey that message properly, then I'd rather him just put out a written statement in French so that there's no nuance, so no one can twist around what he's saying or accuse him of being unsympathetic when it's really just a language barrier. I understand why he only gave the statement in English, but that's not stopping Ottawa. They are piling on to this guy nonstop, including the Prime Minister.
We live, as I just said, in a bilingual country. We proudly live in a bilingual country. And companies like Air Canada particularly have a responsibility to always communicate in both official languages, regardless of the situation. I'm very disappointed in, as others are, rightly so, in this unilingual message of the CEO of Air Canada. It doesn't matter the circumstance, but particularly in these circumstances, a lack of judgment and lack of compassion. As you know, the Committee of Official Languages has summoned the CEO to appear before it. I will follow his comments closely and comments which I would expect in due course from the Board of Directors.
He's basically calling for the CEO of Air Canada to be fired. I find that a little hypocritical of the Prime Minister. He's still learning French himself. He was not proficient in French a year ago when he was running to be leader of the Federal Liberal Party. Do you remember the debate fiasco where Chrystia Freeland had to bail him out?
Work with Hamas. We all agree on Hamas, on a two-state
No, we don't agree with
solution.
Hamas. No, we're against
Hamas.
We're all
against
absolutely.
Hamas. We are.
His French isn't great either. I mean, we have a governor general that doesn't speak French. She as well committed to learning French, but she doesn't speak it. Let's have one consistent standard. And if we agree that we are a bilingual country and that our leaders and CEOs of our biggest companies should be bilingual, then enforce it across the board. You can't go after the Air Canada CEO when you're not going to enforce it against our own governor general. That's bananas. I do want to play one more thing from Prime Minister Carney in the House of Commons yesterday. He made a statement that a lot of people are reading as tone deaf. Maybe he's still jet lagged from the European vacation. I don't know, but this doesn't sound good.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Let's look at what's happened to the United States since the summer. They have lost 6,000 jobs. This country's created over 80,000 jobs since August. Let's look at what's happened to wages in this country. They are growing the highest in years, 4%. They're growing twice the rate of inflation. Canadians are getting ahead. Every single month of this government, Canadian wages have grown faster than the rate of inflation. Rents are at a 33-month low. Affordability is the best it's been in over a decade.
Hear, hear. The Honourable Leader of the Opposition.
Maybe for your friends.
Well, Mr. Speaker, I guess for those people who stash their cash in tax havens, you've never had it so good and so affordable. Tell that to the single mothers walking down the grocery aisle. Or let's talk about jobs. He compares it to the United States. When you do an apples-to-apples comparison of unemployment, it is 1.3% higher in Canada than it is in the U.S. In fact, Canada has the second highest unemployment in the G7, the worst grocery price inflation in the G7, the most unaffordable housing in the G7, the worst household debt in the G7. Mr. Speaker, he promised we'd be first, so why is he the worst?
Be careful with those slogans, Pierre. That gets the media all uppity. What the Prime Minister said, I don't know where he's getting his numbers from, but does that seem right to you? Does that seem right to you? He said, Canadians are getting further ahead every month, and we have the best affordability in 10 years. I'll play that part of it one more time. Listen to this.
Highest in years, 4%. They're growing twice the rate of inflation. Canadians are getting ahead every single month of this government. Canadian wages have grown faster than the rate of inflation. Rents are at a 33-month low. Affordability is the best it's been in over a decade.
Is that your experience? Because I think the vast majority of people listening to this pod are thinking, he's completely disconnected from reality. That's just not true. I mean, we're not getting further ahead. In fact, we're falling further behind. But there are people, though, who will see that clip on the news and, yep, of course they ran it, that are going to see that on the news and think, oh, okay, I guess things are getting better. All right, things are turning around here in Canada. The reality on the ground for the middle class folks like myself and probably you is it's not getting better. But he's got to appease the seniors, right? That's his base. Friends, I'm going to go. But tomorrow, it's a Listener DMs Friday. Anna Almeida is going to join me tomorrow, and I'm going to take a deep dive into your DMs. I do have a couple of guests coming up over the next little while. There is going to be a weekend episode coming out this weekend because I am talking to a very good friend of mine. He is an accomplished author, and he's written a new book. So not only am I going to talk to him about his new book, which is in the sci-fi realm with an interesting twist about cancer. Sci-fi cancer. Interesting. I'm going to talk to my friend Joe about that this weekend. He's also going to explain the process of how you can write your own book, how you can self-publish and be an author. So that's coming up. And I also have a pretty senior conservative politician who's going to join me on the pod next week. The topic will be immigration, because that is the topic I get the most interest in here on Scott Fox After 9. Enjoy your day. I will catch you right back here with Listener DMs in less than 24 hours.
Oh, yeah.